Hey guys, today's video is on the Ousmin A8 Pro, the new version. Now if you frequent my channel, you might know that I have already reviewed an Ousmin A8 Pro. It is actually sitting right over there on my shelf. But they contacted me recently and told me that they brought out a new version, and that is exactly what this thing is here. Now I can tell you straight away that it's much slimmer than the original version, which is a full doubled-in unit, so that's going to be an interesting change. And just for those of you who haven't watched the original video, this is not an Android head unit. It's actually designed for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, very much like Kenwood, Pioneer, Sony, etc. So it'll be interesting to see what changes they've made. So let's get it out of the box. And here it is. So yes, obviously much slimmer than a standard doubled-in unit like the previous version. They seem to have gone for the standard Android kind of width, and I assume that those guys do this because it's much cheaper to ship and probably manufacture if they reduce the size and the weight of the thing. So this has these fins on the back for heat dissipation, and it looks like it has all of the same connections that the previous version has. Now let me show you the previous version. This is the previous version. Now ignore the fact that it's got a big crack in the screen. That is because the Amazon delivery driver decided to throw it over my fence because I wasn't in when they came. But you can see how they are similar. Now the main thing about the original Ousmin A8 Pro is that it is a proper doubled-in size. This is exactly the size that you get when you purchase a Kenwood like this, or a Pioneer or a Sony or anything else. It is a standard doubled-in unit. It means it just slots into cages in pretty much every car that takes this size of unit. And the problem with this kind of format of head unit is generally that they don't fit into a cage which is designed to hold doubled-in units into cars, and that makes things difficult when you're trying to fit them into a car. And with the Extrons and A-Toto up there, I had to resort to physically cutting a cage to make it fit in and finding a way to wedge it in, hold it in place. So I'm assuming a similar situation has to happen with this, so we'll see. Now what I have seen with this unit is that they've given us these brackets, and the brackets basically fit onto the side of this this head unit. And what that should mean is that I don't need to use a cage with this, because this bracket actually acts as the cage which would sit in the car. But let me tell you what's wrong with this situation. To get the bracket onto the head unit, you need to screw it on, and they've supplied these screws. And look how massive they are, look how thick the head of this screw is. Now if you imagine this connected to this is just like a head unit being in a cage. It's exactly the right width. As soon as you introduce a massive screw like this in place, which is probably about, I don't know, 2 or 3 millimeters thick, that's going to add 6 millimeters to the sides of the radio, and I can tell you now it's definitely not going to fit in any of my cars, just simply because of that reason. And I'm going to test it in the jukebox test station. It's probably not going to fit in that as well, because the gap in this is exactly the same as what you find in cars. So yeah, we're going to have to see what the situation is here. So here's the jukebox test station, and here's the exact doubled-in gap that you would find in most cars, including my Saabs. And here's the head unit. So let's have a look and see. Yeah, there you go. It doesn't go in because the screws are preventing it from actually fitting in this gap. So that's a pretty big design flaw, and Ousmin, you really need to think about providing a smaller screw so it actually goes into this gap. Now I'm going to make this fit so that I can show you it working. The head unit actually also comes with a reverse camera, which is a really nice touch, so you don't need to buy it separately. Okay, I've just found the second most annoying thing. They have supplied a loom which doesn't have an ISO connection. So the previous head unit, this one here, has a standard ISO connection which can be used to connect to most cars, most looms. This one does not. It has their own connection on it, and they've given you a loom which connects to individual wires, which means I need to splice it. Now that's highly irritating because I don't want to have to do that. Now luckily I don't need to splice because I have a Escu other brand head units which actually have exactly the same connector, and I did double check that they're wired in exactly the same way. So, and this one actually does have the ISO connection on it, which I'm going to be using to test this head unit. But so far, Ousmin, this is not good news. So first of all, you've adjusted the size so it doesn't actually fit anymore, and you've taken away the ISO connection that we actually wanted to have. Okay, so let's see how long this thing takes to boot. That's cool. Not quite sure, it looks like a Ferrari. I don't know what that car is. Okay, it's got a percentage bar to show you how the boot up is going. And there we go. Okay, so that's actually a pretty fast boot up time. So I can tell you that the screen is actually better than the previous version. It just looks better. I mean, the contrast ratio isn't that great still. It's obviously still a cheap screen, but it actually is better than the previous version, so that's a good thing. CarPlay and Android Auto functions are right on the dashboard here, as you would expect them to be, because that's the whole point of this unit. And you can continue to slide and find the additional features of the unit. And things to note are the radio, which is here, the front input camera here, and the AV in here. Now it does actually have the functionality of reverse camera as well, just as the previous unit does, so it does everything that you would expect a aftermarket head unit to do. Now another thing that I can say that has vastly improved with this version of the Ousmin A8 Pro is the settings, which was a really awkward and clunky way on the previous one. It was this one, you go into settings and they've actually set it out very nicely. The user interface is infinitely better on this one than it was on the previous version. And the good news continues as we go into the sound settings. So if we go into sound effect and we go into equalizer, it will give you the standard fade and balance options, which we've seen in the previous version. But as soon as we hit equalizer, we can see they've increased the amount of bands that we can edit to 16. So this is excellent. This really gives you a lot of control over the audio and how it's going to sound. Right, time for the main event. We know that it's an Apple CarPlay and Android Auto system, so I'm going to get my trusty iPhone and we're going to connect this to the head unit wirelessly. Go to settings and Bluetooth. I assume that it is this car Bluetooth thing here. Yep, pair. Yeah, whatever. Right, it's now connected via Bluetooth. And there we go, CarPlay instantaneously. So, let's have a look. Spotify. Okay, so having tested the audio just then as well, it does sound amazing. Just have a little bit of a tweak with the graphic equalizer, set it to rock, which really kicks off the treble and bass on the head unit. Does sound amazing. And the fact that I didn't have to do anything with this head unit to actually get it to work with my iPhone apart from connect Bluetooth makes it amazing as well. So yeah, if you can actually fit it in your car, then it does actually perform exceptionally well from an Apple CarPlay perspective. Okay, let's try Android Auto. Okay, so for some reason I couldn't actually find the head unit using my phone, so what I ended up doing is actually searching for my phone on the head unit. So here it is, Galaxy Note 20. Okay, there we go, so I've just connected it, and so it shows it's connected here. Oh, look at that. There we go. So this head unit actually has wireless Android Auto as well, and that's absolutely cool. So if I can just pop myself music on here. So this is perfect. So really easy to connect to Android Auto, really easy to connect to Apple CarPlay, and it sounds pretty good as well. So I'm not going to give it any scores because it's not an Android unit, but my summary is really annoying to connect and to fit, simply because it doesn't fit the standard form factors of double DIN once you've connected the brackets that they've given you. And they also do not supply a standard ISO connection, so it can't be plug and play. You are forced to splice it in. But once you get past all of that and you actually use the thing, it's lovely. It's got a much better user interface. It's got a very easy way to connect your phones to it, and it sounds amazing as well. If you have any questions that you want me to answer, just ask them in the comments, or if there's another head unit that you'd like me to review, just let me know what it is and I'll see what I can do. Please like the video if you like the content, and obviously subscribe to my channel for more.